Hi everybody. In today's video, I want to talk about the biggest emotional fears and worries that women have when they're thinking of becoming a single mother by choice. Things like, is it selfish to have a baby without a father? But how can I go through the whole IVF journey and actually give birth without a partner there to support me? What will other people think of me making this choice and going down this path? Who can I share the special moments with in this journey if I'm doing it by myself? What if something happens to me? Who will look after my child if I die or if something happens to me? Those are all really big fears and legitimate fears, and we're going to talk about those in this video. In my last video, I talked about the practical concerns that women have when they're considering becoming a solo mom. Things like, but how can I look after a baby by myself, especially a newborn? How can I get things done around the house when I'm looking after a baby or a toddler by myself? How can I set up a support system for myself as a solo mom? So I covered a lot of really practical stuff, and I talked about possible solutions and where you can learn about different strategies and tips to help you manage those practical concerns. If you haven't seen that video, I highly suggest you watch it. I'll put a link here because you'll find it really helpful. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm TJ. I am a single mother by choice, a solo mom. I've already got one child who is 2 years and 3.5 months, nearly 2 years and 4 months. On this channel, we've called her Baby Star. I'm now starting to call her Little Star. And I had her using donor sperm as a solo mum, but I also use donor eggs because I'm an older mother. I had her at the age of 48. And I'm currently pregnant. For those of you who don't know, at the time of filming this, I am, I think, 29.5 weeks pregnant. I'll probably upload it much later to YouTube, so I'll be further along. But the time of filming it, I'm 29.5 weeks. And I'm having a little boy, again, as a solo mom, as a single mother by choice. And this child is a full sibling from the same egg donor, the same sperm donor. Now, at the time of starting my journey, I was only thinking of having one child. It never even occurred to me to have two. And I was already worried about all of the topics we're going to talk about in this video. If somebody had told me then, you're going to have 2 kids by yourself, I would have been freaking out about all of the topics that we're going to cover in this video. So if you're watching this and you're thinking about having a child or more than one child by yourself using donor sperm, without a partner, without a husband, as a single mother by choice, just know that all these worries that you're having, I had them too, and everybody has them. They don't get talked about that much, and they certainly don't get talked about in detail like I'm going to in this video. And there's certainly not much out there that you could read or listen to that will help you deal with these fears. And in this video, I'm going to share some resources with you that will help you. Okay, so let's get going. So one of the biggest fears that I see raised all the time in all the big Facebook groups I'm in for single mothers by choice, and also in my own community, I run a private community for women who are on this path, who are on an unusual path to motherhood. We have women from around the world in this community. We all support each other. We write posts. We do live circles where we share our feelings and our fears. If you're interested in joining that, I'll put a link here. But basically, I hear this question asked a lot, both inside my own community and in all the Facebook groups I'm in. And the question is it selfish to have a baby by myself without a father? Is it selfish for the child to grow up without a father? Now, I actually made a YouTube video on this at least a year ago. It might have even been 18 months ago. And this video went viral. It blew up. I had so many comments. I had women writing to me from everywhere saying this video helped me so much. It was only a short video. It was probably only 20 minutes, but I covered about 13 reasons why it's not selfish to have a baby by yourself. And I shared a lot of research, and it was packed with information, and I took it down. I took it down because, as well as getting so much thanks and gratitude from the women I made it for, I was getting a lot of abuse from men online who were finding this video somehow through the search terms or through the title, I don't know how, through the thumbnail. Just they found it and they were angry. They were angry that I could suggest a child might be okay growing up without a father. And I got a lot of abuse. So after a long time of that, I decided to take the video down. And so what I've done now instead is I took what I had talked about in that original video and I turned it into a 1-hour seminar. And I've gone into it in much more detail, talking about all the reasons why it's not selfish to have a baby by yourself, all the positives of what you can bring to a child as a solo mum, and what the research shows, and different ways you can think about it, different ways you can look at it, and the things that you can say to other people if they dare to suggest to you that you're somehow going to harm your child by not giving them a father. There's lots and lots of reasons why that's not true. So if you're someone who never got to see that original video I made, or you'd like to hear about it in much more detail, and this is a topic that concerns you, definitely get this seminar. I've made it extremely affordable. I just want to get this information out to women, but I want to do it in a way where I'm not copying abuse through men on YouTube. So this way I'm selling it in a seminar series. So hopefully the only people who find out about it are women like you who are actually needing this information. So I'll put a link below to that, because if you are worried about this issue, which is a very big topic, you will find so much in that seminar to reassure you. Okay, so one of the other big fears that women have, emotional fears about going down this path, is like, how can I handle going through IVF, going through a pregnancy, going through a birth without a husband or a partner there to hold my hand and cheer me on and do it with me as a team player? That is a legitimate fear, because these are big things to go through. When you're going through IVF, it's a bloody roller coaster. Sometimes you go through years of failures, and sometimes it can be a quick journey, but either way, it's an up and down journey. And of course, being pregnant, as I can tell you right now, is filled with emotions. It's filled with physical challenges. It can be a wild ride. And for some women, they can be very sick during it. I'm very lucky I haven't been sick, but I've still had other issues to deal with. And then giving birth by yourself can be a very daunting thing. Who are you going to bring into the birth with you if you don't have a husband or a boyfriend or a partner to bring? Will you bring your mother? Will you bring your best friend? Will you bring your sister? Do you have a close girlfriend? Like, who will you bring? And it's very different being naked and screaming in front of someone who's not your intimate partner. So a lot of women are nervous about that, understandably. So I just wanted to raise that, because it's a legitimate fear. And if you're feeling that, you're totally not alone. I felt all of that. I didn't know how I was going to do all this by myself, go through the IVF journey. How was I going to handle a pregnancy? Who was going to massage my feet? Now, right now, I have a little 2-year, 3-month-old girl who is so sweet. She goes, "Mummy's feet sore," and she rubs them with her little hand. It doesn't really do much to help because her hands are so little, but it's just nice. But when I did it the first time, I didn't have a 2-year-old to rub her feet. I didn't have any help. And I was here by myself for the whole time, the whole 9 months. And the birth, I mean, in my case with the birth, it was even more extreme because it was COVID at the time. So you couldn't take people in with you. And I had a friend come in with me into my birth, but she wasn't allowed to stay after the birth. So for the 4 days I was in the hospital, I was there by myself. I couldn't have visitors. If I'd had a husband, I would have been allowed a visitor, but I couldn't have a non-husband there. So I was by myself, right? So these are real concerns. So if you're worried about this, one of the other seminars I've done in this series is talking about everything I've learned about this process of going through IVF, going through pregnancy, going through a birth by yourself, and lots of different ways to look at it and think about it to help you feel a lot less worried about it, plus practical ideas and solutions that will help calm your fears about this. There are ways you can get through the IVF journey, the pregnancy journey, and the birth by yourself by creating other support structures around yourself to make up for a husband. And I also talk a lot about how often you can have much better support that way than with a husband. It's not always so easy going through this stuff with a partner. There are other problems that come from going through all this with a partner, with a romantic partner. So if you set things up properly, you can actually have a more supported, conflict-free ride with much less drama than you probably would if you did it with a husband. So if you're worried about going through this journey by yourself, the difficult bits, the IVF part, pregnancy, the birth, definitely listen to that seminar. You'll find it really helpful. I'll put the link down below again. So then another fear that women have, which was actually one of my biggest fears, it's not everybody's fear, but it was one of mine, is if I don't have a partner, who can I share all the special moments with and all the magical moments when I have my baby? And some people don't care about that. They don't need that. I'm someone who obviously likes to share a lot. That's why I'm running a YouTube channel. But I also have set up lots of avenues for myself after the baby was born where I would have the opportunity to share with my family, with close friends, with a larger group of people cheering me on. And the beautiful things that I was experiencing, because there's no way I could have gone through my first year with baby Star, or not even my first day with her, if I couldn't have shared that with someone, because there were so many beautiful magical things, like the first time she smiled, the first time she was on my boob, like the first time she rolled over, but not just the first, like every second is so beautiful with a little newborn. I was just in love with her, and I just wanted to tell everybody. I was singing her silly songs and just having those beautiful times, and I wanted to share those with someone. And then there were some challenging times where I needed to talk about it with someone who actually cared about her and about me. So it wasn't just all sharing the cute moments, it was also sharing the difficult moments. And I was really, really worried going into this, how I was going to get that need met if I didn't have a person living with me in the house who also loved my child because it was her father. Because it was such a big concern for me, and I knew that I was going to want to share everything that happened, the good stuff and the bad stuff. And I knew that my hardest thing would not be the practicals. For me, I was very confident I can handle all the practicals of looking after a baby by myself, but how am I going to do it without sharing it with a special someone in the house? Like, that was for me the biggest fear. It's just how I'm wired, and some of you watching it might be wired the same way. I had to come up with a lot of strategies for that. I had to build a support network for myself that was there for allowing me to share. That's different from a practical support network that helps you look after the baby and drive the baby around and brings you food and all that. That's a separate thing. I'm talking about a support network that is there for me to share the moments that I need to share, the beautiful moments and the challenging moments. And I put a lot of thought into how to build that. I put a lot of time into building it, and I built it really well. And I'd say that of all the things I've built to support me, my support network I built for sharing the experience is the strongest one I have. So I've recorded another long seminar with lots of ideas for you and the things that I did and just other things I've seen other women do to help create that for yourself, so that you won't feel the absence of the beloved husband who you're sharing it all with, because you'll have other people in your life who are heavily invested in your child and your situation and who really, really want to hear every single thing that's happening. So definitely listen to that seminar if this is something that you are worried about. Another big fear that people have when they're going into this, and that we talk about a lot inside my private community, my Baby Dream community, in our live circles, where we do support circles for women who are currently trying to get pregnant, trying to have a baby by themselves. And if you're interested in joining that, it's mybabydream.club. Anyway, one of the things we talk about a lot is, how do I discuss this with other people? How do I explain this to other people, that I'm doing this with a sperm donor, that I'm doing this by myself, that I'm not looking for the partner, or that I've let go of looking for the partner, or whatever? How do I explain this to other people? How do I deal with other people's questions? Where's the father? Like, there's a lot of women who are single when their child's 5 years old because they've had a divorce. People are pretty used to that. Oh, I'm a single mum, yeah, oh, I must have gone through a rough divorce, you know. But that's a very different thing from choosing from the beginning to do it by yourself, going through IVF by yourself, going through pregnancy by yourself. You have to explain it to a lot of people a lot, all the time. Oh, I'm a solo mum, what does that mean? I've just had to learn this one through experience, through 2.5 years of being a solo mum, and I'm living in an area where there are not many solo mums. I'm not in a big city where there's lots of women doing IVF by themselves. Like, really, I only know one other woman in this whole region who's a solo mum, single mum by choice. So everywhere I go, I have to explain it to everyone. So I've recorded a seminar specifically about that. How do you explain this choice to other people? How do you deal with other people's questions? And I recorded it because I wish I had had that seminar to listen to when I was thinking about going down this path and when I was at the early stages, because I was worried about it. I was worried about, how am I going to talk about this with people? How do I explain it to people? What do I do when they ask questions? How much do I tell them? So I basically made this seminar for me 3 years ago, what I would have wanted to know. And hopefully it will help all of you as well who are listening. So if you're concerned about that issue of how to explain this choice to other people, definitely listen to that seminar. It's in this same series that I've put the description below. Another one that is a fear for people, and I've made a video a while ago about a moment in my pregnancy when I suddenly really came face to face with this fear, and I'll put the link here. It was basically a moment when I realized, what if I don't survive this cesarean section that I'm booked in for? Who's going to look after my child? It suddenly hit me like, oh my God, I don't have a backup person here. If I die or something happens to me, I don't have a husband who's going to step in as the guardian and who's already the parent. And it suddenly hit me, this is a real issue. And I became really worried about it. And I had to do a lot of work to think about that and to solve that problem. And I know a lot of other women who are considering this path are worried about that. Like, what if I get really sick? What if something happens to me and I'm not there, no longer there, and my child is left alone in the world. Because we don't have a backup person if we're doing this. We don't have that inbuilt guardian who will have to take over if something happens to us if we don't have a partner. So some of us are in situations where our parents are elderly or they've passed away and we don't have automatic grandparents who could take them. Or maybe we don't have a brother or sister who could take our child. Maybe we have a brother or a sister, but they're not suitable for whatever reason, or they wouldn't want to do it. You know, not everyone's in a situation where there's an obvious backup person. And I was in that situation when there wasn't an obvious backup person. So I had to think about it a lot and do a lot of work on that, come up with solutions for that, and think about the legal ramifications and how to draw up a will to cover that, and guardianship and all that stuff. So I've made another seminar in this series about that, about the things you need to think about in order to be able to relax in the knowledge that your child will be taken care of if something happens to you. And if you know how to deal with it, how to handle it in your will, how to find guardians, all the different ways you can think about it, if you know that, then you can relax about it. If you don't know that and you're like, oh my God, I've got no one, my child's not going to be alone in the world, then you're going to be terrified to go down this path. So that's why I wanted to record this seminar, because after you listen to it, you'll know how you can solve this problem, and you'll know that you're not alone with these fears, because a lot of us are worried about it too, and there are ways you can solve it. So if this is something that concerns you, definitely listen to that seminar. I'll put the link below. And I'm going to finish with one of the biggest fears that women have. Every woman I know who's thought about going down this path, unless they're spectacularly wealthy, has worried about the issue of how can I possibly afford to raise a child by myself. Now, in the previous video I made, I talked about a seminar that I recorded about how you can work from home as a solo mom if you're looking after a child. But I didn't really address in that series the bigger issue of just generally how can I afford to do this by myself. I focused more on the practicals of how you can work part-time or work from home while looking after a child. I didn't talk so much about working out of the home or how do you deal with balancing work-life balance, but I've addressed it in this series because it's a real issue and it's a massive fear that we're all living with. How can I possibly afford this? How can I keep all these balls in the air? How can I juggle all of this financially? Whatever type of job you have, however many hours, whatever other assets you have, whatever, if you own property, if you don't own property, like we're all dealing with this issue. So in this seminar, I've talked about lots of different ways you can think about this issue to calm yourself down. I've really dealt with the emotional aspects of this fear, where it's coming from, how to handle it, how to live with it on a daily basis and still look after your child. And I've also talked about practical ideas and solutions that I've gathered from the years I've spent in the solo mum community, things that I've done, things that I've seen other women done, how they're handling it, sorts of strategies women use with their employment, balancing work and looking after children, how they're bringing in side hustles, extra sources of income. Like I've just talked about the whole thing in this seminar, all the stuff that basically I wish somebody had told me when I was at the beginning of my journey, because I was also worried about it. How am I going to afford it? It's hard to do it without a backup financial income coming in from a partner. It's just much harder. And you know, you hear these mums with husbands going, oh, we're struggling a bit at the moment. And I'm like, yeah, but you've got two people bringing money in. You know, they are struggling. I feel for them. But at the same time, they're not carrying the burden financially 100% by themselves. They've got someone else, at least they can brainstorm it with or try and collaborate with on bringing money in. Like when you're doing it by yourself, you're really doing it by yourself. You are 100% financially responsible. So in this seminar, I've talked about that, what that feels like, how to handle those feelings, how to handle those emotions and those worries, as well as practical things you can do to make the situation easier for yourself financially, and just lots of different ideas. So I think that one will also be really, really helpful, especially if this is one of your big fears, especially if it's something that's stopping you wanting to go down this path. Now, all the fears that I've talked about in this video can be really, really big, and each of them just by themselves is enough to stop some women from going down this path. So I guess my hope is that if there's someone out there who is really maybe not going to go down this path because they're worried about one of these big fears, if they listen to these seminars and they hear something that reassures them, and then they go, okay, I can do it. Even though I've got this fear, it's doable. I see now that it's doable. And that woman then has a baby and that child is born. I'm going to know that that child got born because somebody listened to my seminars and felt reassured. And I just hope that child gets born, because I'm crying now because I don't want your child to not be born because you're dealing with these fears that we all deal with, because all of them have solutions. All of them have different ways you can look at them, different ways you can think about them, so that you can actually function, so that the fear can subside and you can get on with the process of having your child. And if I had let myself be stopped by any of these big fears, baby Star would not exist. And she's the most beautiful angel, little star. I'll call her little star. You know, and the world would be deprived of her beauty and her joy and her sweetness because I was too scared. So I'm just hoping that these seminars can get out there and help other women, so that you will be able to get past your fears and have the child that your heart so deeply wants to have. I am so emotional right now at 29 weeks pregnant. I can't even record a video without crying. Hopefully you found this video helpful. Over here, you'll see another video all about the solo mum journey, my journey as a single mother by choice. I hope it inspires you to go down this path yourself and have your beautiful child. I'm sending you so much love. I'm sending you so much baby dust. Bye.